Oh my god, hold on. I want to go back. I want to go back. I want to go back. Where's Ganondorf? Where's Ganondorf? Where's Ganondorf? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?
Do not look away. You witness a king's revival and the birth of his new world.
Oh, oh, oh. Mmm. Mmm. I love it. I love it. God. I. Oh, that was so cool. Do I want to analyze this? The video is already like 20 minutes. No, I don't want. So, one thing I'm excited about now is looking at that trailer, we saw Link teaming up with like other characters in game. Like, and I don't mean like in cutscenes. I mean like specifically, he was attacking alongside them in the same style we would attack in Breath of the Wild, which means we're actually getting way more involvement from the other characters in the game, which is important. I want to go back a second. I want to go back. There was the face. Where's the face? Where's the face? Where's the face? Where's the face? It's coming up. Oh. There. So, okay, I want to focus. Like, this is the only proper shot we get of like what I'm guessing is the Zonai. This is what the Zonai look like. They're not humanoid. They're an entirely different species. Which, I suppose, kind of makes sense when you think about it. Because, like, in a weird way, it makes sense. When you consider the... And don't get me wrong, I know they're based on the ancient Mesopotamians. And those were humans. But when you consider, at least in the style... When you consider Hyrule, and then the current Zonai ruins we've seen so far, it is oddly alien. So, yeah, like, you remember what I was saying before about them throwing something at me that I never expected? I was not I thought the Zonai were just not going to be there. I thought they would be all, like, dead. Very dead. And that begs something new. So, Zelda falls down the hole, falls, and Link fails to save her at the beginning of the game. We also see Link jump down the same pit. So, presumably, at that point, the Zonai show up, and we know where they found Ganondorf, is obviously like a Zonai temple of some descript. So, they fall down the same hole, and I'm guessing the Zonai must have rescued them. So Zonai rescued the pair of them and split them up for some... Unless it was two different factions of Zonai. That could be something. We get two different factions of Zonai. So we get the ones that... Yeah, because the Zonai technology and magic, it's like the Sheikah. they both flourish in technology, but it's powered by magic. And obviously some of them are more innately magical than others. Hence like Sheikah monks. So what if there's two different factions, like Yiga and Sheikah? So we've got one faction of Zonai that make the technology like the Sheikah, and then we've got the other faction that hold on to the much more magical element of their culture. So one's what Matt would explain. You've got two types of Zonai. You've got warlike, which explains why Ganondorf is not essentially demonized in those cave paintings. But you've also got the side that potentially explain why now they're showing up to help. Now Ganondorf's back. Because it looks like they're on our side. Or at least the ones we've seen. Like, that's just what I'm guessing. I could be wrong. Hands in the air. I'm not a genius. But I wouldn't be too surprised if we were told the story. Look, the Zonai and Ganondorf obviously have some kind of connection in this game. That was probably going to be explained anyway. My assumption thus far would be the Zonai. Like, this is my speculation now, and I know I think I'm repeating something I've heard in another video, in I think a Nintendo Black Crisis video, that, though I digress, I still hold this opinion myself, that in terms of speculation, we may be told the story of the Zonai from the perspective that there are two factions. Similar to how, and we know they're literally called a warlike tribe from the Faron region. So let's think of it this way. The warlike tribe from the Faron region that suddenly disappeared. And if they split into separate factions, that partially explains that disappearance. They wiped each other out. But what if alternatively, some, obviously as we can see here, some must have ascended to the sky. Or maybe they came from the sky, that's something. Yeah, they could have come from the sky, I suppose. That's a possibility. And it also explains why they have depictions of, since they're involved with Ganondorf somehow, we know that much. It now also explains why they have depictions in Breath of the Wild of certain events, such as the joint seal. They have a monument that is like a joint sealing of Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, but also his failed execution in Twilight Princess. Not to mention there's a boar statue that is buried deep within the ground. Meanwhile, both I don't think a wolf, but a dragon and owl statues are very much clearly above the surface. And we know, at least in the context of the Triforce, who those represent. So it's possible that the Zonai are a faction that may not worship the Triforce exactly, since it seems like these ones in the trailer are on Zelda's side, at very least Zelda and Link's side. But at the same time, it sounds like they're putting a lot of stakes on Link and Zelda for some reason. And what does Ganon? And if Ganondorf's not the one who's captured Zelda this time, then what are we looking at? Because in every other game, Ganondorf has needed Zelda, and that's why she's been captured. He has needed Zelda for some ultimate goal, and that's why she gets captured. Or at least Zelda would impede one of his goals, thus she has to be killed or captured. Which must mean in this context, he doesn't need Zelda for whatever he's got planned. He said he wants to burn Hyrule he wants to kill everyone in Hyrule. We know that from the last trailer. And in this one, he says it's the birth of his new world. So one can only assume whatever he's got planned is significantly more fucked than before. Like, even if we take into account Hyrule Warriors, that's still not as fucked. Yeah, sure, cause a mass breach in the space-time continuum, and that's one thing, but, like, your goal ultimately was just still to for that to get fixed and for you to still conquer Hyrule. In this case, he doesn't seem interested in... Every time before, it's conquer Hyrule, claim the Triforce as his own. That's usually how it goes. And that's the result of him being, well, the Antichrist and incarnation of the Miser's hatred. But so, let's think about it. Every other Ganondorf plot so far. So, if we go all the way back to the beginning of the game, Skyward Sword, we aren't given too much information on Demise and the Demon Tribe outside of that they came from a fissure in the ground. So quite literally, we're assuming they're from hell, and Demise is Satan. All we know is that Demise was hell-bent on claiming the Triforce as his own. In the next Ganon appearance canonically, which is Ocarina of Time, we just know he wants the Triforce. We know that for a fact that he's like, and he orchestrated all events so he could get into the Sacred Realm and try and claim the Triforce. In one scenario, he actually gets the full Triforce and becomes the Borg Ganon we see in all of the Downfall timeline. And in A Link to the Past, his plot is very much the same. Now that he has the full Triforce and is essentially a god, despite being sealed away in the Dark World, his whole goal is to conquer Hyrule and return to, well, the main world. And that kind of remains his plan for most. And eventually, obviously, his mind slowly degrades to the point where he becomes a mindless beast. Well, not necessarily a mindless beast, but a beast of very limited capacity, and it would only appear he wants to conquer Hyrule. That's it. Like, destruction and plundering destruction and power, we're assuming, are his ultimate goals. And he's already got a significant amount of power that keeps him stuck in the boar form, given the separation of the Triforce in the end, in the first two Zeldas. And if you look at the child timeline, where his original plan to get into the Sacred Realm is completely foiled by Link, having the Triforce of Courage on his hand, we can also reasonably assume so we know that Ganondorf's whole set of plans is fucked up by Link having the Triforce of Power, Courage, when he returns to the child timeline. And in this case, it's unclear what Ganondorf's end goal is. We know he wanted to conquer Hyrule. He did conquer Hyrule through Zant. But he also controlled the Twilight Realm through Zant. So, what would his ultimate goal have been? He had the Triforce of Power, and presumably he would have just wanted to take the Triforce of Courage from Midna and Link. Courage and Wisdom from Midna and Link. I'm guessing that's what he would do. But also, he had the fused shadow in his hand at one point. He could have used that to his own advantage, but he didn't. So, at least in the context of Twilight Princess, which, at least in my opinion, appears to be the most likely candidate for this current Ganondorf, but obviously, that's probably likely to be wrong. Oh! Hey, Encanted, you've just caught me going on rampant speculation from the current trailer. Yeah, so we've moved on from child timeline, and we go to adult timeline, where we get more sympathetic motivations for Ocarina of Time, where he said he wanted to conquer Hyrule and claim the Triforce to better his own people, which, fair enough. That can be a lot of motivation for some war, even if it's completely wrongly, even if it's completely abhorrent, the results of those motivations. But he doesn't, and he still wants the Triforce. So, and assuming that Zelda has the Triforce, the full Triforce, which from Breath of the Wild appears apparent, what's his goal here? Does he want to destroy the Triforce and then destroy the world and rebuild it as his own? It's not clear. And if the Zonai are placing all their bets on Link and Zelda, what are they doing to not assist Link? It's very clear they want to assist Zelda, as given from this trailer. Like, they're there, you know, one of them supposedly placing his hand on her shoulder. So, what's their play? Why would they assist Zelda so much, yet they're leaving Link to his own devices right after the Master Sword has just been destroyed? And actually, one thing I've just noticed now, this is Blood Moon particles. These are particles of Malice in the Blood Moon. So, does this mean that this is the faction of is this the alternate faction of Zonai I was thinking of earlier that might have sided with Ganondorf once upon a time? Because they have horns as well, which, okay, isn't an indicator in all cases. A lot of creatures have horns in the Zelda universe. But as we can see here, a lot of Ganon's minions have horns in this game. And that is a fact. We see it all the time. And in fact, the Bokoblins, Moblin, all the enemies we've seen from Breath of the Wild that have come back for this game, all have much larger and more expressive horns than they did, than the weird stumpy ones, such as with the Bokoblins. And Bokoblins got massive ones now. They got a little stumpy thing on their forehead. Now it's like, So, and if we're assuming that monsters are, if we know the monsters are sort of like an expression, or at least mindless fragmentation of Calamity Ganon's power in Breath of the Wild, so presumably they're an expression of just Ganondorf's power in general. So, and I doubt Ganondorf wants to rule over monsters, because in that sense he's ruling over himself. So he wants to destroy Hyrule and build his own world. Who does he intend to rule? The Gerudo? They're obviously against him here. They are very clearly and explicitly against him. Urbosa says that the Gerudo helping destroy Calamity Ganon is repenting for essentially bringing Ganondorf into the world, though not in so many words. And we also just see Riju in this trailer, presumably teaming up with Link. There's way too many, like, with each trailer, it opens up a whole new batch of possibilities. I actually don't know what to think, so, and I guess we'll just have to wait until the game releases. Though I digress. And Canton, I know you kind of showed up only a few minutes ago, but I'm about to end stream because I got stuff to do. But I want to thank everyone else who came by and watched this trailer reaction / speculation. VOD's immediately going to go live on YouTube, so don't worry about that. I'm also going to segment it into speculation and reaction. And yeah, that's it pretty much. So we'll just have to see where things go.